On this podcast, we share a nuanced view on discussions involving relationships, self growth, perspective. I'm 27 years old, male, and every week I'm joined by a counterpart. This week, I'm joined by another 28-year-old female. Right off the bat, as usual, Maddie, how important are relationship dynamics when it involves religion with you?
Always right off the bat. Honestly, it's important. I think it's important that you have a partner that respects your views. Regardless of if they agree or not, I think as long as you have the ability to be curious about each other and respect it and come to the understanding that like you're not going to ask them to change and they're not going to ask you to change, then I think it can be healthy even if you disagree. Obviously, it's ideal to have somebody that matches your viewpoint, I think. I'm not really Christian anymore, and my partner went through the same sort of growth with the church that I went through and is very much asks a lot of questions about God. And I think on a little bit of a different level than him in the sense that I'm like, is there a God? I don't really know anymore. And I'm comfortable with asking that question now for the first time in my life. And I think he's very much there is a God, but what does my relationship with him look like? And so we have a lot of conversations about it, honestly, because we both went through it with the church. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I respect him. And if he decided to go fully back into being a part of the church and that was like his choice, I would respect it. I don't know that I'd join him on Sunday, but I'd support him in it. How do you feel? Are you a churchgoer at all, or what's your religious life look like? Your spiritual life, I should ask.
Yeah. Initially started out just growing up in Bangladesh. It's a Muslim country, so raised around that. But our country got their freedom not that long ago. I think it was in the 70s. So it was a lot of rebellion. It's been led by female leadership for the past 40 years. So it's really different from most Muslim countries. So when we moved to the States, it was pushed by my mom mainly, but that was more of a cultural significance for her. She wanted her son to, look and be Muslim just for playing the part. So that was very obvious. I tried, hated it. It felt like school. It felt like it was pushed. Didn't really get a lot out of it. But at some point, I accepted it and saw the good in it. So I was Muslim for like maybe a couple months, like actually believing it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the worldview started opening up. Like, same thing for you and your boyfriend, just questions. It's hard to not be open minded in the modern world. So things
Yeah,
started
I agree.
opening up. Yeah, it's kind of how I went back from it, but probably same as you. You even mentioned, like, what if your boyfriend goes back to church, if that's his choice? And you're both questioning, is there a God? And what is it, if so? So I'm on the same playing length as you guys. I'm not necessarily atheist because I believe atheism is a religion itself. And a lot of
Yeah.
atheists push it. I was like, what's going on? Like, the whole reason we went open minded and started thinking independently was not to push things on people. So I'm open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I feel like there's just so much, and our generation is learning to ask a lot more questions than I think anybody before us has. And I wish I could quote statistics correctly because I always forget when they come to mind. But I do know that on paper, we are the most unchurched religion or unchurched generation when it comes to religion, but seemingly the most spiritual generation when asked. So, like a lot of millennials and Gen Z will say, no, I'm not religious, but I have a spirituality. And so I think that it looks different for everybody. But I think that's interesting because part of my pivot point for exploring more outside of Christianity was I met somebody who is Muslim, and I was in a dance dorm when I first moved out. And there was one night that we just sat up until 2 a.m. and I was one of the only Americans in the house. And it was people from all over the world with all different religions and different beliefs. And there was somebody who believed that in reincarnation, and he knew a lot about his past life. And like, he was like, I was this person, and here's what I did, and here's how I died, and this is why I have the scar, and was very like studied on it. And then we had somebody who was very devout Catholic. There was me who at the time I was Christian from the very like American sense of the Christian church. Like I went to a Baptist church and then Nazarene church and then like the non-denominationals, but I experienced every religion growing up. I went to a Mennonite school, an Adventist school, a Baptist school. I was homeschooled for a while. I got a little taste of all the different Christian religions. And so we're all having this conversation. And we get to a point where I realize we all believe the same thing. And I was raised, unfortunately, to not know and understand, or quite honestly and bluntly, to not respect the Muslim religion. And That's realizing that and having a conversation with somebody who I really loved and respect sitting in front of me, telling me his faith and religion and what the Quran said and all these things. I was like, what? We believe the same thing. They've been lying to me. Everybody's been lying to me, being like, "Ooh, scary." Like they don't believe in Christianity. Like they do. They do. They believe that like Muhammad was a prophet. There's just more. It's like the same exact thing. The Quran is exactly the Bible, and then some. And somehow we just got caught up in the logistics of in the specifics of what was being focused on in the books, but it's all the same thing. And so that was really my pivot point where I was like, oh, I've been lied. I've been lied to. This is a problem. So I started to really look into things, and I actually read a good portion of the Quran. I didn't read it front to back, but I did a lot of studying on the parts that really matched up. And I was like, I want to see how this matches up. And it's the same. Every religion is really the same. So yeah, that was my takeaway on it. I was like, okay, we're devoting too much time to getting the specifics of a book that's so old. And I think what I need to do is focus on the fact that I should be a good person and that we should all be able to love and respect each other and go about our lives. And I'm not any more correct than somebody else just because I was brought up in a different church.
It's entirely about value system, right? That's
Yeah.
all religion is, all the books. It's entirely your value system and how you operate and what your integrity levels are. And I think
Yeah.
that applies completely to relationship dynamics. I look up to a lot of people that ended up going the religious route, people that are very open minded, that are very spiritual. But I saw they went down and chose a religion. Usually Catholic is what I'm seeing. Catholic and Christian is usually the main choices. And it made me curious if I wanted to explore that route myself. I haven't went into it, but it made me curious. But at the end of the day, I think what you've realized after opening up from Christianity and the propaganda against Muslims, yes, that's pretty much the American Christianity way. What you opened up and saw the similarities, like the entire value system, yeah, that's kind of what I'm realizing is important in relationships too. So that was going to be my question to you is if someone else is a completely different religion than you and that's really valuable to them, like how do you break past that? And I think you just answered it. Like it really is. Yeah, we both just came to that. It's about the same value system.
Yeah, I think you do or you don't. I think there's a lot of people, and I was raised in a church that they're like, I would hear the phrase a lot, unevenly yoked, and that you shouldn't be unevenly yoked with your partner, which means you shouldn't have a partner that doesn't believe in Christianity or your walk with God, because part of your walk with God should include a godly household. And in order for your godly household to be godly is for everybody to believe. And I can't buy into it anymore because I see that totally as a structure of this is the same church that the vows when you get married are that you need to be submissive to your husband, but the husband doesn't have the same vow that he has to make to the wife to be submissive to her. And so it's like the hierarchy of the household is arranged like the man is the leader, the woman is submissive, the house will answer up to the man who is supposed to lead the walk with God. And so he can basically make any decision that he wants and say, this is what God wants for us. And I think once I started to just pull all this apart, I was like, no, this is not. I think a lot of religion was based off of like controlling women and controlling people, the masses in general, but specifically women. And once I took a step away from it, it was like just glass started shattering everywhere for me on all of the ideas that I had. I think as long as you have a partner that's not forcing beliefs on you, but more so respecting and asking questions about your side of things, I think it can be healthy no matter what. But I know there's a lot of Christian relationships that would definitely say otherwise, but that's my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. Was the Muslim person you're talking about, is that your current boyfriend?
Oh, no, it's actually a friend of mine. He is a dancer and videographer, right? Is that what Maddie still does?
Yes, more
Yeah.
video, but downstairs
More
still.
more video now, but dancer still. And he's a really cool guy. But yeah, just like a good friend that everybody from the dance storm, also who I'm talking to off camera here, my best friend of the last like almost 10 years now of our lives. I met her in the dance storm as well. So we just have this like lovely little family of people from all over the world with all different ideas of religion and walks of life. So that's where I learned that.
Your openness and your relationship right now, having both open minded goals around religion and having a pretty synergetic relationship. That sounds great. That's what I would align with. But you just also mentioned how many of your friends are so different, reincarnation to straight up Christian to straight up Catholic to straight up Muslim. What does it make you think sometimes? What is their perfect ideal relationship?
I do wonder that, but I think I also my sister, I have a sister who's 5 years older than me, and she very much stayed in the beliefs that we were brought up in and is very Christian. Her and her husband are worship leaders together, and they're raising their children in the church as well. And so I have a lot of conversations with her about that, and I'm very open with her about my reasoning for no longer being a part of the church or no longer being comfortable with it. It wasn't until very recently that she's, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. And she'll talk with me about it. So I get to see the inside of her marriage a little bit more because she's my sister. So I get a lot of insight from her. But aside from that, I feel like my other experiences with people who are who religion was a part of their relationship was when I lived in Texas. So I feel like you probably experienced a lot of it just being in Texas. I feel like it's the Bible Belt. There's a lot more people that are religious. And now that I live in California, I feel like most of my friends are not very Christian. Most people are pretty agnostic, I would say, if anything. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really question too much about it. I just feel like they have their own systems that work for them. And if I feel like I have a friend who's being persuaded or controlled or there's anything toxic going on with it, I would probably poke a lot of questions into their brain and say, hey, what's going on here? But I don't know. I genuinely I can just appreciate and respect it for other people and let them have their space because I think spirituality is important. I think we all need something to hang on to, especially with how ridiculous the world is right now. Like everything is spiraling out of control. I feel like we all have to hang on to something, and for some people that is Christianity. For some people that's Buddhism, that's Hinduism, that's Muslim, it's whatever, or it's atheism. So everybody has something that they're like, this is what I believe, and this is how I make sense of the world around me, and I'm going to hang on to this. And I celebrate that for anybody, no matter what.
There's a couple ways to approach that in a relationship, right? Depending on who you are, you can either fall into the fawn system, which you and I have touched on some
Yeah.
podcasts, or you can do what you just mentioned, where it's like poke into questions and maybe try to understand them better, but still you maintain your entire own value system and you're not really rebuking that. Have you felt both at all? Like the fawn? I'm curious about the fawn one.
Yeah, I feel like in my last relationship, not so much because he wasn't really that religious. I was really the one that was pretty religious, and he was. You figure that out, and thankfully, I feel like I did. I feel like I'm at a point that I feel very comfortable with my spirituality. But yeah, I don't know that I personally really experienced that very much because I've either been with somebody who is very like whatever about it, or somebody who is pretty much in the same lane as I am. So I haven't really had much of that response, nor have I experienced my partner having that response to me because I think I always have people that are willing to have those conversations or to be like, oh, yeah, you do you kind of thing. But what
Yeah.
about you? Do you feel like you've had that experience with partners when it comes to religion, or especially being in Texas and not necessarily being Christian? Has that been an interesting experience for you dating?
Yeah. For you, I'm really glad that it worked out where you had time and space to come to your own because the fawn system not activating, that's wonderful. For me, that's been a question. You know about someone I was seeing from a couple weeks ago, and that woman had ended up being Catholic. So that was very important to her. And it was also important to her mom that she be with someone that's at least not a Satanist or an atheist. I was like, luckily, I'm neither of those, and I'm very open when it comes to religion. But
Yeah.
I definitely had the questions go up in my head. Am I going to fawn here, or am I going to hold up my own values and still be open and curious? For the most part, I felt like the fawn wasn't there. I did mention to her, how do you think I would respond if you asked me to go to church with you? And she's, I think you'd probably be open to it. I'm like, correct. I would be open to going to church with you and your family. That's not a problem. I've always been curious about it. But I was worried and scared. Will I change my value systems depending on me getting closer to this person? So
Mm.
that's still up in the air. I don't think I will just because awareness changes things. But of course, you also know it didn't really work out with that person either anyway. But it
Which
still
I
left me
think I
questions.
need updates on. But wait, I have a question that brought a question to my mind. Do you think that your value systems would have to completely change if you decided to join a church? Do you feel like your value systems are really different than somebody who was Catholic, specifically since we're talking about Catholicism?
Yeah, going to church, not a problem. Partaking, not a problem. Respecting her views, supporting her journey on God, not a problem. But are you asking if I joined the church, if I actually went Catholic?
Yeah, well, you said you were concerned about your value
Mm.
system
Yeah, yeah.
being different. What do you think would change the values you think that she would probably hold that maybe you don't, that would maybe pose a problem or that you would be needing to change?
I think most of it would stay perfectly the same because I'm pretty aligned with. I'm obviously attracted to the girls that have grown up in church and in the church family. It's starting to make sense. Okay, the value system was pretty accurate for what I want in general. So I think most of it would pretty much maintain the same. But if there was an emphasis on there being a God, there being one type of God, and that was really strung on by the family and her, that would make it a little tough. Like that, I would disagree there. I would disagree that I haven't found the answer to that. And it would be really hard for me to, I would support her, but it would be really tough to act like I believe the same thing. And I don't know how much of a conflict that would make, especially if someone's really passionate. There have been wars started. The whole world has experienced
Most of the
everything it's
worst.
experienced. Exactly. So I could only imagine what that would cause in a relationship if it was a big belief that there's that one specific God. And it might cause
Yeah.
a little chaos. It just depends on, honestly, I guess it would really come down to how much does she respect me for being open and how much does she respect me for respecting her and still supporting it anyway.
Yeah. I also feel like a lot of those things come to a head when couples decide to have children, or more or less decide how to raise their children. Because then that's where it comes into play. Then it's okay if the mom is Catholic and very religious, and it's important to her that her kids go to Sunday school and maybe go to a Catholic school and learn all of that and that they are brought up in the faith, but the dad necessarily is not in that boat, then it's like, how do you navigate that? And also, is it upsetting to the dad that's not Catholic? Would that be upsetting to you if you had children with somebody and she was like, I'm taking the kids to church every Sunday and they're going to Catholic school and they're going to be brought up in the church? Would you be like, maybe let's chill on that?
Yeah, I could immediately feel my fawn system kicking in. Oh, it's fine. Catholic schools, that's probably better than most type of schools anyway. And then I'm like, wait, is it? Like I've heard so many horror stories there. Is it? I don't know. So I'd almost be a little numb to that. School wise, I don't know. School doesn't do much great, in my opinion, anyway. If things change by then, hopefully. But that's Catholic school
Yeah.
or public schools. I don't know what matters. Yeah, shoot your shot 50-50. They come out on the other end. But as far as taking them to church every day and really hammering it on them, I'd be pretty cautious about that because I want the kids to decide still. I think kids are very good at deciding in their own path. And I think leadership determines what they end up valuing anyway. So if that became a problem where she's really pushing it on them, I wouldn't even be attracted to that if you're really pushing it on kids. Because I've grown to understand that you raise kids, it sure, but it's more like they just do them and you just protect them and nurture them up until they start making their own decisions. And then you just let them be their own human from there. So that would
Yeah.
be a massive deterioration of the value system if things are being forced.
Yeah, for sure. Is that kind of what came to a head with you guys? Because I need the update on what happened with this girl from a couple weeks ago. Was it religious based at all or no?
No, nothing to do with religion. Yeah, so let's get into it. So, full context, I haven't dated seriously and intently in a while. And I'll tell you what finally changed to where not only have I dated, but there's been like way more experiences in that avenue. It's been about 3-4 weeks that I've actually been in the dating market intentionally and actually making real efforts. What changed for me is one of my biggest insecurities has finally gone down, at least to a very manageable. The way I look,
Which was?
yeah, the way I look, my weight, thinking and writing every single human off because I feel like I'm not attractive was what I have done for the entirety of my life. There'd be glimpses I'm like, you're not ugly, and then I'd be like, no, everyone's not attracted. Just go and write yourself off. Was a big belief, which was insane. But what was really happening was I wasn't happy with my eating habits. I wasn't happy with my lifestyle. there were so many things that I was just doing to cope, to deal with the numbness of life, of parenthood, of like just my entire childhood, that I was not happy. And of course, I was being made fun of a lot in the not even Muslim culture, just Bengali culture. And honestly, my family dynamics. I shouldn't even put it on a specific religion or a country. It was easy to make fun of the kid that would look different just so your own kids could look better. So there was a lot of just harsh like reinforcement of weight, of looks, of everything. So that stuck there. And then I just wasn't happy with myself. Now, finally, through dancing, through counting calories, intermittent fasting, just everything I'm doing, I'm so much happier with the lifestyle I have. And I hit a certain weight, I think 35 pounds lost. And I looked, and I'm like, okay, this was a big goal to lose like 35. Now I'm at 40. This was a big goal to hit that amount. How do I feel? I feel like there's nothing more to lose. Weight, sure, but I'm super happy with my lifestyle. I'm super happy with my calorie intake, my eating habits, my activity. And that changed. That I was like, okay, cool. There's nothing else to go. You'll just only look better physically. You might attract more people. But other than that, I feel good. I was like, do you feel good? I looked at myself in the mirror. You feel good now? And like Maddie, one of our questions is like manifestation type of things. And maybe it relates into this. But as soon as I felt that and made that decision within myself, everything changed. Immediately, this girl that texted me, we went out, and then since then, I've asked out many more, made more relationships, made some friendships. So in the span of 4 weeks, which is an intense period of time to have that many experiences. But the first one was, and this really does tie in, it's crazy. She's known me for 2 years while I was a DJ. Ran into her a lot. She was super sweet, gentle, shy. Every time she had requests for me, she would just do it in the most respectful way. I was like, I really like this person. So at some point, I got her number. Didn't really do much with it. Invited her to my birthday. She texted. She was excited. Didn't make it. Yada, yada. It went on for a while. At some point, I stopped DJing and we lost touch. Then I sent everyone on my DJ text list an update about how this is no longer a DJing number. This is now a marketing text message platform for my podcast. And she replied with like intense amount of support, as she usually does. And I was like, you know what? This is really attractive. Now that I actually think I'm worth something, let me text her back saying, hey, I'm really glad you support me and I'm glad we are staying in touch somehow. And then she told me about her birthday dinner coming up. I ended up missing it. And I told her, let's go out on a birthday dinner. We went out on a birthday dinner and she had no idea I had lost the weight. And it was just supposed to be a birthday dinner, but I ended up picking her up and I told her, I know this is not a date, but I've always wanted to get to know you. And she said, I've wanted to get to know you for the past 2 years also. I was like, interesting. And then I told her, I'm also attracted to you. And she was like, I've been attracted to you for 2 years also. I had no idea about anything. I'm like, wait a minute. You liked me at that weight and this weight? She's like, yeah, I've been like, so you're my perfect type. I'm like, slow down, perfect type. And I was like, God damn it. Now I'm nervous. What a
She
mind
flipped the
fuck.
script on you.
Completely. I'm like, wait a minute. I just accepted myself in this presenter intense for like how I'm living my life. And she's, I don't care how you lived your life. Like I was attracted. I was like, shit, you like are objectively attractive. Like she is absolutely objectively attractive. And that was my first time actually going for it with someone with the belief that I'm okay to do that, giving myself permission. And she's, nope, you didn't have to do anything. I was like, shit. So that was a complete mind fuck. So that's like part one. And of course, it ended up being a date. And I was like, can we call this a date? She's like, yes, we can call this a first date and there will be many more. I was like, okay, interesting. And then this is the crazy part. So apparently 2 years, I have not liked anyone because the next day, it was on a Friday, Saturday, I have anxiety all day. Insane amounts of anxiety. It's like, oh, okay, I actually like someone now. So that happened. I told you the update. And then Sunday came around. I was going to go to the Arboretum just to be on a solo date to take care of myself and try to be back in my own world instead of leaving it and being in anxious mode. And then I was like, you know what? Let me call her, see if she wants to like join. Whatever, I'll give it a shot. And she did. She was like, yeah, I was curious like when the next thing might be. I know like we were both, it's only been a day, but we were both interested. So we went to the Dallas Arboretum together and I told her.
That's such a cute day. I love that.
Yeah, it ended up being super cute. I wish I could show you the pictures, but so many things happened since then. I was like, I've never done a picnic date. So I asked her, do you have picnic materials? And she got super excited. She's like, yes. She absolutely had all the picnic things. So
Hell yeah, I do.
yeah. And what a perfect reaction, right? So she packed up everything picnic related and she basically paid for that date at that point. And it was the most beautiful thing ever. We had the best time. And we actually both picked up on things from our first date that we wanted to question each other on. So we both held standards and values and like approached it. That's when we talked about religion. We had already talked about kids on the first date. And then the second date, she was like asking more questions about kids. So we talked about kids, religion, value systems, so many things. And it felt great. Like we were really aligned. I ended up accidentally meeting her parents because she invited me over.
Well,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't tell you that.
straight away.
Yeah. She was like, yeah, you can just come hang and just say hi to them at least. I was like, yeah, no problem. Neither of us were wanting to have sex or approaching that. We had already talked about how important it is to wait for sex. That was not the intention. And we were just hanging. She lives with her parents. We just met them. And her mom absolutely loved me. And then on the way out, I ended up meeting her dad. Very short, but made him laugh. He ended up loving me too. And her mom's, I hope I see you around again. I was like, okay. So amazing things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ended up being a little bit vulnerable. I told her, hey, I've actually already been having anxiety. I'm going to let you know that. You don't really have to do anything, but sometimes I could use a little reassurance. So I just want to let you know that if you're okay with that. And she was like, yeah, that's not a problem at all. And sure enough, on the drive home, I have explosive anxiety, like the worst it's ever been, even though so many things went well. And then she ended up sending me a pretty reassuring text. I was like, nice. Okay. And it went away. I didn't feel like I was about to die. And then the next
What do you feel
morning,
like your anxiety was on the way home? You weren't sure if she was going to take what you said and actually give you more reassurance, or is that what spiked it?
yeah. Yeah, I'm like, it's so early. It's been like 2 dates. Am I scaring someone away? Am I doing unhealthy
Mhm.
things? But it feels so natural, so I just went for it. It didn't really feel wrong. She confirmed it by showing that it wasn't wrong. It
Yeah.
felt natural, even though it's been soon. We have context on each other for 2 years, so it wasn't that crazy. But I'm
Right.
terrified. I'm judging myself all the time of, am I pushing things too fast? Honestly, that's still a big debate now, 4 weeks later. It's still a big debate. Am I pushing things too fast? And maybe I did with her. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next morning, she sends some really nice, reassuring text. And I literally reply, I'm like, this is the most reassuring thing you could have done. I feel great.
I love
And
that.
yeah, so it sounds great. We're texting. And then she tells me about her brother and how they're not talking. And then I reply with a supportive text. And right after that, she's okay. Like, I got to hop in the shower. And then I send the supportive text after that. I was expecting to hear back from her after the shower at some point in the day. And she does not text, doesn't call, like nothing. Just the rest of the day is ghost. I was like, oh shit. I definitely
Mm.
can't text her, be like, where you at? Like, text me back. But this is one of my off days. It's Monday. I'm off on Mondays. So I'm
Mhm.
blowing up with that absolute intense anxiety. I'm thinking of worst case scenarios. She died in the shower, like all kinds of things. That's where my
Right.
anxiety took me. And the next day, I call her in the morning just to make sure she's okay. Oh, actually, really more to get my reassurance. And she's like, hey, I'm just not like someone that likes to text every day. I was like, oh, like what just happened from reassurance and like amazing lovey text? She even
Yeah.
said, I wouldn't mind waking up next to you in the morning. So we both said that. And then it went to, nope, I just don't want to text every day. Oh, okay. I agree with you. Like incessant texting isn't great. And she's like, yeah, like maybe you could just text me and we could just do a call on days we don't see each other. I was like, okay, that's fair. That sounds great. We set up the call. Nothing happens. The call gets moved up. She's busy, and my sense of time gets wasted because like my like 6 to 7 was an hour I blocked out, and then that got wasted. I was like, that wasn't fun. And then she's okay. How about after dance class? I was like, sure, but that'll be late. Go to sleep early. We have the call after dance class. 3 minutes in, and she's okay. It was nice hearing your voice. I gotta go. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, and then I just asked, is everything okay? Did something change? Just tell me if something changed. She's like, oh, no, nothing's changed. We've seen each other twice in 3 days, and I'm just not one to text every day. I'm like, that's fine. Are you overwhelmed? She's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, okay, do you need some space? She's like, yeah, I do. I was like, okay, I'll give you some space. I mean, the
Yeah.
soonest
Just
I can see you.
communicate. That's fine.
Yeah. I was like, the soonest I can see you is Sunday. Is that okay? She's like, yeah, that's perfect. That gives us some space from our date. And yeah, that sounds good. I gave her space, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done in the past 2 years. Yeah, that anxiety was gruesome. I did a dance festival during that time, though. So I did Brazilian Zouk. That helps so much, man. Amazing.
Yeah, I
I
was
was
loving
on
the
a high.
videos. I love the videos, like, seeing
Yeah.
that what you were posting, it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I had at least lived in my own world, as anxious as I was, and that was such a great decision. And then Sunday came around, or Saturday came around. I never told her what time I'm picking her up. So I figured give her a 24-hour notice, what time, and that if that works with her. Send that Saturday morning, don't hear anything back. Sunday morning comes around. So 24 hours goes by, and she just replies, "Hey, I'm actually going to Philly tomorrow. So I'm just going to go and pack today and spend that time. So won't be able to see you." I was like, I've known about your Philly trip. You've known about your Philly trip for an entire week, and canceling on the day of, that sucks. But therapy, talking with friends, I was like, okay, this is the point where I just say, and this is what I said: ball is back in your court. Thanks for, I was hoping to tell you about my day or about my entire week, actually, and it was going to be fun to catch up. And she was like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm glad you had a great week. And then I said, okay, I guess that's all she's saying. She's glad you had a great week.
I know about it.
Yeah, tell me more, or let's do a phone call at least while I'm packing. I don't know. Everybody takes a shit in the
Yeah,
day, so like, um,
right, right.
so it's so disorienting, Maddie. And then I just sent her like balls back in your court. Just let me know whenever you feel up for it. And then she replies saying, "Thanks, Justin. That sounds really great." So maybe she's still overwhelmed. I don't know. So that's the healthy thing that I did because of therapy, because of friends. I was like, all right, maybe I'm pushing too hard. So let me make sure I'm doing healthy shit. That's what I did, but no matter what I was feeling. And then the next day I was like, I want to speak up. I don't like the style of communication. Like, this is so disorienting to have that much love, say those things to each other, and then just completely go cold. So I at least want
Mhm,
to find out what it is. So I told her like, hey, this just, we haven't communicated much. Was any of that like, it was real from my end. I just want to make sure, was that genuine from your end? And she's like, it was completely genuine. It just seems like we're not on the same page about talking and texting every day. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I haven't asked for that. I haven't even initiated that. So I'm like,
I feel like you wanted that though, and she knew that you
yeah,
wanted that. It's
yeah.
probably fair. I feel like she understood the assignment and was like, "I
Mhm.
can't do that."
And that really sucks.
I feel like you also talked about this with a little bit with me, and then also a lot with your other co-host about love
Mhm.
bombing,
Yeah.
and I feel like you got love bombed. I remember when you were like, "I used to do this all the time. I actually didn't realize I was doing that to people." I think it just
Yes.
happened to you.
It 100% did.
And I don't think people mean to do it
I
intentionally. I
don't
think
think so
people
either.
are, like, excited, and then they're like, "Oh, I don't really wanna dive into a whole thing." And I think she probably like, hearing you talk about it, and also I wanna say I'm on your side. I hope you don't feel like I'm,
I
like,
don't
taking
know.
it
I
to hear
want
it.
I want the honest truth. So yeah.
I feel like she probably was like, "I really like this guy," and it was really exciting, and so it was fun. She was like, "You guys were seeing each other and and then she realized what you needed to maintain
Mm.
that, and it wasn't something that she was looking for to have that much to maintain. Like, she probably was like, "Oh, this is fun, and wherever it goes, that's great." And then she's, "Oh, if I continue to meet him what he needs for his communication, then I'm, like, in a relationship, and he's my boyfriend." Because that really is, like, full-blown relationship, what you're if you're needing to if you're texting every single day, if you're talking on the phone for hours at a time, if you're like, all of your extra time is being spent with that person, like, that's a relationship. And so it sounds like she just wasn't ready for that, but she liked you and she didn't know how to tell you, "I'm not ready for that, but I wanna see you. I just don't know that I need to see you every day just yet." Which is hard when you really like somebody because 'cause you're like, "I wanna see you every day. Why don't you wanna see me every day?" But I feel like she probably just wasn't ready for a full-blown relationship, and it accidentally became that, it sounds like.
That is exactly what happened. And it's actually nice to hear it from a close friend. Yeah, because a part of what she said was, I prefer slow and casual dating, and this doesn't feel so. I think from the context of the text and you already understanding, that's what happened. And I can't help
Yeah.
but go into a shame loop. Fuck.
No, I don't think there's any shame for it. I think you were just ready for something she wasn't ready for, and I think that's just life. It happens sometimes. I don't think you did anything wrong. You were clear with her about what you wanted, and then she was like, "Yeah, I can't opt in. I can't sign the terms and agreement here." I don't think that anything wrong happened. I think it just didn't align.
Yeah, which just sucks so bad. Yeah, the hopes. And then, of course, it makes me think, what about in the future? What about what happens next with anyone else? Am I too much too soon? I think I found out in therapy I am. I am too much too soon. And I know the reason why now. I'm almost throwing a tether out, hoping someone latches onto it so I can feel some security and comfort. So I've realized that. Now I'm aware of it. And that's a big thing to work on. But I can't help but go in a shame loop of, I wish I was different. I wish I did things different. And I wish we communicated more to match that. Maybe I'm trying to find I'm trying to find almost a red flag so I can move on. You know what I mean? That's like the avoidant in me. And
Mhm.
that red flag that I'm accusing in my head is, we could have just communicated more, and that could have been mitigated. Like my last text to her was, can we find a happy median? And then there was no text back. That's when the ghost happened.
Yeah. But
So
it's also hard to find a medium of, I don't want that much communication and I need a lot of communication, because the medium still ends up being quite a bit of communication.
yeah, and then no one's happy.
So it's still not really an in between, which
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I feel like when I first started dating my partner, I did the same thing to him that she did. That we were talking quite a bit, and we were remote. We were remote. Me talking in work lingo. We were long distance, and I was all the way in Texas, and he was out here in Los Angeles, and we just started chatting. We weren't dating or anything yet, but it was obvious that we liked each other. And I went 4 days that I quite legitimately just was not on my phone. And I will do that. If I'm with friends or if I'm going through anything or whatever, I will fully forget that my phone exists and happily forget that it exists. I just don't want to deal with it. It's a point of a stressor for me. It makes me feel overwhelmed sometimes. So I just don't I'm just wasn't on my phone. And while I obviously really liked him and I was thinking about him, but I wasn't like, I need to text him. I was just, and then I resurfaced after, I don't know, I think it was like 3 or 4 days. I resurfaced and he was like, where'd you go there? It's the first thing that he said to me. And I was like, oh, I kind of just don't like being on my phone sometimes. It was like a whole long weekend that I just disappeared over the weekend. And he was like, oh, okay. I thought you were interested in me. I just figured you would text me if you thought of me. And I was like, it wasn't that I wasn't thinking of you. I'm sorry. Did that hurt your feelings? I didn't think there was anything to respond to. He's like, oh, that's okay. Just, you want to talk later? And I'm like, yeah. So then we talked a little bit more. And then every once in a while, I would do that. And I would get into the patterns of it being on the weekend. Because if I was spending time with friends, I would just be present and not on my phone. And he's like, I think I realized that you are somebody who's like capable of being present in the moment and you don't want to be on your phone. But I think it did bother him a lot at first. And then we just got into more of a sequence as we started actually dating. But that I'm curious now because I think he, quite frankly, just put up with me doing that to him because I was like, la, living my life. And also, I had just gotten out of a marriage. I was trying to figure out what the fuck my life was at that time. So I just was floating through whatever's whatever. And I don't know. And it turned
Yeah.
out fine, but it's hard at first if you really want to talk to somebody and they're just being super aloof. But all of this to say, I don't view that as rejection from her side. I view that as just a pump the brake kind of thing. If it's going to happen, like it will happen over time, but it doesn't need to be forced. Because if you're like 2 days in to liking somebody and you're like, we have communication problems, that's never going to work out. That's just not going to be, it's never going to be something that doesn't cause anxiety because then you're going to start off being like, we started off rocky, and then you're always going to look back and resent that if you're categorizing the actions as rejection or shame or guilt or any of that, then you're going to feel those every time you think back when you first started dating that person, and like that's just going to reflect all the way through. So I don't know, I don't think there's any good answers in there, but other than the fact that I don't think that she rejected you, I feel like she probably was pumping the brakes. And also it feels like maybe it's not totally over. Is it? Where'd you guys leave off?
That was it. That was the last text. She was, one of her last texts was like, it sounds like we're not on the same page on communication styles. It was all genuine. It's okay that this doesn't work out. I've still really enjoyed getting to know you. And then that's when I sent the happy median text. Can we work this out? And then no
Yeah.
response. So maybe that last text from her was, it's not working out, or it's just maybe she didn't know how to respond to that and it's left to no communication. So like,
Just give us
yeah, I'm not going to double text that, be losing respect for myself, but I want to ask, I was like, hey, I'm sorry if I push too much. Just really like you and it's a part of who I am and how I react. And if you're open to working through, that'd be great. If not, I completely understand. We can part ways and just be friends. That's what I want to say, but I think everything I had to say was pretty much in that text of let's talk, let's find the happy medium. And if that can't be
Yeah.
reapproached, then I'm just disrespecting myself continuously. I'm trying to be healthy and hold that standard.
Yeah, I feel like my friend advice for you, if you're receptive to receiving any right now, is just give it some space,
Yeah.
and also, if you decide to talk to her again, I don't think that it's your or that you decide if you end up sending a double text, I don't think that's, like, you devaluing yourself or anything like that. I feel like if you choose to, it should be something more along the lines of, "Hey, let's take things easy. Would love to see you again. Let me know when I could come scoop you up. Let's go hang out. Miss seeing your face." Just something, like, very easy, and if you do decide to keep trying things with this person, I feel like you're gonna have to let it be on the terms of whatever, because who knows, maybe she's also, like, seeing other people, and you also could be seeing other people. You guys didn't decide you were exclusive, and you never know.
Yeah.
So,
That one's
over till it's over.
and that's true. So it is left open and I'll leave it open. But yeah, as far as going back to it voluntarily, I'm not sure I can do that. I
Yeah,
guess that's
that's
the
fair too.
avoidance side. Maybe it's the avoidance side. I don't know. Maybe it's just the truth. Give her space, let her wander it out. And I need some equal effort if she wants to make it work.
Yeah, of
Besides
course.
even, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm using those. I don't know. It feels like excuses, and it feels I'm so confused. Is my answer to you? I'm disoriented and confused, and I'm terrified. I have no idea what slow and casual is. Never have before. Yeah, when one of our texts was like, she's like, prefer slow and casual, especially at the beginning of dating. So it's pretty clear hearing it from you too. That's what's going on. I don't even know if I can do that. I know I have to.
Also, that's not to say that somebody else might come along and they'll just match you in that same style.
Is that right to hold up?
It's not like a good thing or a bad thing, it's just if somebody wants to be more casual about it, if you're comfortable with it, then you meet them there, and if you're not, then that's not your person.
That's so hard to accept.
I know. It's easier said than done. And you're like, "No, it's not that hard, just text me back."
Yeah.
Uh,
And I really
yeah,
feel like it would have balanced out because I've grown so much. I really feel like it would have
yeah,
balanced out if we just did, if she met me where I'm at. To be
but
honest,
that would've balanced out if you were in a relationship.
yeah.
She wasn't ready for that. That's I think that's the key thing. I think, like, it was a little bit more it was a little too heavy for her,
Mm.
it sounds like.
And that scares the hell out of me. I'm like, how do I not repeat this? Soon.
I don't think it's about not repeating it, I think it's just you said what you needed, and then she decided, "I can't do that." And I think that's just that's it sometimes. Even when you really like somebody, if you're like, "Hey, this is what I need," and the other person's like, "Hey, I can't do that." It's, "Oh, okay, on to the next." So it's you have to just let it ride at that point and either meet them where they are or find somebody else that maybe meets you more where you are.
I think that really is the only option because I'm what I am right now. I can't change that. And communicating that and bringing that forward is the biggest step I've ever taken. Even in therapy, when we talked about it, he's like, yeah, that's what you have, and that's probably what you need to communicate. The only thing is when you communicate that, the timeline. I was like, fuck it, it was day two, let's do it. So fucking
I
jumping
feel
shit.
like I really wish Abby was on this podcast actually, because she is my friend who I always just get such fun tea from her and stories, and she has such a fun dating life that I feel like if she, I don't, could you hear any of this conversation? Because I'm wearing headphones a little bit. She could hear it.
Okay.
We need to get Abby's opinion on this at some point. I'm curious. If she,
Abby, just say something.
calm down, or if she's get the girl. 'Cause I feel like she's the kind of person that wants to be pursued usually
Mm.
by guys, and when they don't, then she's, "You didn't give me what I needed, and somebody else will, so that's that. Thank you very much." And she's very, like, comfortable, I feel, navigating those waters. The man should always continue pursuing, she says. That's why I encourage you to give it some space and then reach back out.
Fuck. That is my response.
I also don't know if this girl's traditional or not, and if she feels that way, but I say give it some space and then keep it really light if you decide to reach back out, but that's also your choice. If that's something that is gonna be unhealthy for you and your own self, then don't do it, but if you can keep it light and still feel healthy and confident in yourself, then I say do it.
Yeah, that's the scariest part. Like all of this makes me just think I have so much work to do on myself again
We
before I'm
all do. It's all of our first time here on Earth. We're all figuring it out. It's okay. We're all going to live and learn, and every human that you're going to interact with is different with their own different set of expectations. And so you're going to have to learn and grow to match those as well. So let's figure out what's good for you, and then also figure out how that aligns with somebody else. And if it works, then great. That's
And you never went through something like that, like the slow and casual being a difficult thing, or?
quite honestly, I don't know that I've ever had slow and casual. I'm going to be really real with you.
Okay.
I think the only time that's happened was that I was sort of not really dating a woman before my partner that I'm with now. But she lived close to me for a while, and then she ended up moving away because she took another job. She lived really far away, and we went on like our first official date after she had moved away and I was in that city again. And then after that, we were like texting every day. We were just like sending each other care packages in the mail, doing the very stereotypical thing that like lesbians are known for doing, is just going 100% right away. And she
Clip.
was like making me bread and shipping it to me. And
Fucking
it was
sourdough,
great.
dog?
Yeah, it was
Fucking
great. It was
sourdough.
really good bread.
Oh my god, this is a fucking clip for sure. Okay.
Uh,
Shout out lesbians.
That's the lesbian love language, is making bread and mailing it to your lover.
Jesus Christ.
But anyways,
Mohammed, Buddha, Zeus also, to make sure we're aligned there.
oh, yeah, okay, good, good. Yeah, but I think that was, like, the closest thing I ever had to quote, unquote, "casual," was that we were like, "We're not we're not dating," because we also were like, this was both of our first experience totally being, like, dating a woman, so we weren't like, "That's my girlfriend." I don't know. We were both a little weird about it. We didn't dive fully into that, and then we both very shortly after that ended up meeting these 2 guys. This guy that we
The
joke that we got
chicks got in the
bamboozled.
way. The men
We got
bamboozled.
we got
Lesbians
bamboozled.
aren't real.
And but bisexual people are not two different strokes for different folks, all right? That's
That's a
very real.
cancel.
It's very real. But yeah, and then it fizzled out. But yeah, we went through a whole thing where she like ghosted me for a while, and I was like, she hates me. Oh my god, the only woman I've ever slept with won't even talk to me afterwards. What did I do wrong? It was
Oh, and
bad.
y'all slept together.
And
Damn.
it went on for months, and I was like, I guess I'm never gonna talk to her anymore. And she was like, oh, one of my best friends. We were really close. Thankfully, we're friends now, and we talked it out after a while. She came back online in my life and was like, "Hi, I'm here." And I was like, "Thank you." I really needed that reassurance. I've been dying in my own brain, and we chatted a lot about it, and now we still chat and we're good friends now. But no, I think that's my only experience of really being casual, but it wasn't really that casual because we were still just like texting every day and on the phone for hours at a time. And
And y'all slept together. I have burning questions on that, but the main one is, did sleeping with a woman create the same bond that it did with a man? That it's like
100%.
it did. Interesting. Tell me.
Maybe more. I think for me, the intimacy of that sort of thing it's the intimacy, I guess, more or less. So, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's another human that you're interacting with in a very vulnerable space. And I think with this person, without disrespecting our experience and sharing too much about it, that I don't know if she would want me to, she was like the whole date that we went on before and everything. She was so like caring and thought everything through. And she like had my favorite wine at her place, poured me a glass of wine before we left. And then we like went into this restaurant, and she'd like specifically picked this place that she knew that I would love, and this view that she knew, that she remembered like a childhood story I had told her. And she was like, "Hey, look down there. Remember how you told me you used to take the train when you were in middle school? Like that's the train station down there." And like it was very sweet, and it was like this whole very well thought out date. And so there was just a lot of like care that went into it. And then being intimate in that sense was more so about, I feel very seen by this person, and this is a way that I feel even more seen. And being able to be vulnerable with somebody in that sense, I think, is even more beautiful, because there's lots of different kinds of sex. There's the intimate, vulnerable, I feel seen kind of sex, and there's the deep, passionate, I love you sex, and there's the you're fucking hot and I want to rip your clothes off sex, and there's the I hate your guts and I'm gonna fuck you sex, and there's all of this different array, and I think they all have varying experiences. My experience with her was the nice, lovely, intimate kind, but I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, so I can only really speak to that.
That is an original experience to hear someone say that. I'm not even sure if I've ever seen a YouTube clip of this. I've never even seen this question asked. So I'm glad we somehow got from me dumping a 15-20 minute story to talking about your lesbian sex and how it means just as much as sex with a male partner. And you've only slept with
Of
one
course.
person, dating wise at least, female. Okay. Okay. We
Yeah.
won't expose your entire past on here.
There's a lot of gray area. I don't really know how to define any of it, but yeah, pretty much.
Okay. As long as it's not over 50 shades of gray, that's fine.
No.
We'll keep your body
No,
count
just a few.
disclosed.
Just a few.
Okay. I have one other burning question and then I guess we'll close it off. This is a personal one. It's still tied in to what we were talking about. How do you, I'm asking you this as a friend actually, and I'll bring it up in therapy too. How do you slow and casually date someone without opening up about things that require relationship work? Exactly what we were talking about. How do I even feel close to someone? How do I feel like there's growth about the deep meaning things in life through dating if it requires relationship activities? I'm
I
confused.
think I think my immediate answer to that is you carry your own weight, your own baggage, so to speak, until somebody offers to open and unpack it. And so I think that means you ask for what you need as long as you're not interfering with what they need. So, in the sense of being like, hey, I need more communication, that's great. But in the sense of, hey, I need you to act like my, you know, every single day conversation, and I need texting more, I need phone calls more, then maybe that's asking them to pull more weight than they're ready to. So I also think that, like, when you're talking to somebody, sometimes things flow and it's great and it's easy to be like, they're there unpacking that baggage with you. And that's always a beautiful experience to have with another human. But I feel like there's always a sense where you can feel somebody be like, oh, that's interesting to know about you. And it's not, okay, so like, why? And I think until you get to that point with somebody, it's very much like, hey, I've got my backpack here and I'm carrying my stuff. And until you want to know what's inside my backpack, like, I'm here and I'm going to bring it along with me because it's part of me. And I did the work to learn how to be strong enough to carry it. And
Mm,
I learned how to unpack some of it and leave it at home. But this backpack still exists and it's always going to. And when the relationship is ready, the person's going to go, oh, wow, you've been carrying a backpack a long time. What's inside of it? And I think it's just something you gotta let him. You gotta let him ask. You gotta let your partner be a little bit more curious about it, unfortunately, which is really hard. That's not a very fun answer. I'm sure that didn't fix anything inside your brain, but
mm.
that's my answer.
It's an amazing quote, and I want a t-shirt or a painting on my wall that says that. Keep your fucking bag until they ask to open it, and then don't open it all at once. Just partially start taking little pieces of clothing out, little clothing
Yeah,
traumas with clothes with trauma. I don't know.
they're gonna do the same. They got their backpack too.
Yeah, I am getting frustrated because all I want to do is right now yell out, "Do you know why I'm a fucking podcaster?" I break people down immediately. Okay. I give people an existential life crisis on a daily basis. I don't care. I'm at work. Like sometimes, like bars are my accounts. I will give bartenders existential life crises immediately. They will open up, they will pour into me. And then I've learned to not take it all and then give all my little coffee beans into their pot. So I've
Mhm.
learned that. So I don't really take it all personally. I don't even podcasting, drawing up boundaries. So many people I've said no to because I'm like, I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in the mindset of Maddie and Amanda right now. And that's working out really well. And then Mao, I'm interested in his mindset. Abby, I'm very interested in her mindset. She's very different from you. So those are there. I
She
feel like
is
I'm
very
healthy.
different from
But
me.
this fucking podcaster in me is like, how the fuck do I date and not be that? This is me since my entire childhood, since, and I've brought it into life. So that's me breaking down in camera right now.
I think that's fair. I think it's a fair breakdown. 'Cause that's who you are. Like you
Yeah.
want to have all that communication and it's hard to dial that back. And I also feel like the right person who's also ready for all of that is gonna meet you there. They're like, it'll happen when it happens, which is like the worst answer ever.
Yeah. Cause I'm like,
But
is that even fucking healthy? Is that even something I should think of? Is that even an expectation I should have in my head? that someone can just meet me where I'm at, and that's okay. She feels nice.
Yeah, I think that's okay. As long as, again, I feel like you can't date somebody casually and ask them to put in the work. I heard you use that sentence with her, and I think that's unfair weight to put on something that's not established yet. You guys didn't really build the bones of a relationship, so how could it support work yet? It
Yeah.
just can't.
I really need to
So,
realize that. It's at least 3 months in data form that you shouldn't even be able to make a conclusion on someone, and then that time has
yeah.
passed. You have to see how they interact with others, their family, see how real everything is, see the human for what it is, and you need to give it those at least 3 months, and no one told me 3 months. I'm just like, that's you gotta see it over time, right?
You have to give it the time that it needs, which is gonna be varying for each different person, but hell, I've had job interviews that last longer than this fling that you've described, before I was ready to put pen to paper,
Jesus
and they're
Christ.
gonna pay me money. That's just the fact of the matter. It's like people need time to make decisions on how they wanna spend their time, and time is such a currency, especially right now in life. I feel like we're all just working hard and trying to get by, and I feel like time is such a commodity and a currency. It's if somebody's demanding a lot of it, it's hard to get if you're not ready to give it, it's hard to get into it with them.
That is the most aggravating analogy that Maddie used on me. And she's had more time with work interviews than I have with this dating thing. That's completely fucked me in the head. And
Sorry.
it's going to result in so much growth. I know that. And I am excited for it. So, this is, I think, one thing I want to make very clear as much as I'm sharing on this podcast, I hope someone can relate to this. And I want you to know that I am excited about what will result out of this because it's inevitable. I've opened the doors. I've seen things. I have awareness. I'm in therapy and I have great friends like this. And I have a podcast to share this with and be completely vulnerable about. And I'm hoping that it helps you if you're in a similar position. Dating is probably the hardest part of self growth because now you involve another human being. And I knew that. So once I accepted myself for an insecurity that opened me up to being able to date, and I have a shit ton of other stories to tell you later on, but that has opened a big can of worms that will probably set me up for the rest of my life. The fact that I want to find security and comfort very obviously through dating is what is being shown to me. That's a big problem. And that's a big one that I'll be approaching now, is what is being shown to me. Something that would have been a blind spot if I only focused on after this horrible analogy. So she can get to dance
We're
class.
done. That's
Fuck you. Um,
Fuck you, Maddie.
I'll show you how I can ignore you for 4 days. But that's on a closing note. And as far as time goes, please don't make me wait 3 months before this podcast grows either. Please don't bring out the anxiety in me on
Can't
that.
handle
So, yeah, Maddie, tell him. You close it out.
neither can my dog. My dog can't handle it either. Zeus is really gonna do you hear these growls that are happening?
I can hear the growl.
He's serious. You better
Yes.
rate, and comment, and follow, or Zeus is coming for you.
Talk that shit. And then maybe I'll have another podcast with Maddie. Find out. Share it. We'll see. Deuce.